Welcome to the Luminators Podcast,
a podcast portal casting light on the sacredness of life through the lens of creativity, somatic bodywork, holistic healthcare, mind-body connection, and more.
We invite you now to open your legs,
Heart,
ears,
and mind
to the transformative energy of remembering the sacredness of life.
Before we begin, please bring your intention within your heart space and provide consent to fully receive these codes.
Hi, Lumies!
Welcome back to the Luminators Podcast. We're your hosts, Alyssa
and Lindsay. This sacred space invites you to feel seen, inspired, open, maybe a little triggered at times, but mostly deeply empowered.
Today, we are going to be talking about the emotional somatization and the language of the genitals. Such an empowering, important conversation that Lindsay and I are going to discuss today. And we're going to begin with our personal definitions of emotional somatization. So, Lindsay, how would you define that in your own personal words?
So, for me, emotional somatization is how the energy, right? Emotion is energy in motion, gets held and stuck and held really in the body in a way that can cause issues, whether physical or energetic issues within the body, and how to release those pent-up energetics or resistance to life, how those emotions... So if we have emotions, to me, it's if we have an emotion that doesn't feel safe to take its full process, whether that means I shouldn't be feeling this way, it is not safe for me to cry right now, I shouldn't feel angry, all the shoulds, right? Those energies of that emotion doesn't have access to fully process through, because emotions, all they want to do is just feel felt and go through and move through the body. So when we don't allow those, they get stuck. So emotional somatization to me means just deepening the deep understanding of your own holding patterns to where you have never felt safe to feel certain things. And you, what do you feel personally, how you grasp this concept?
I grasp it as, like you said, energy is in motion, and that is emotion. And so if we kind of feel emotion like this ocean, emotion of the ocean, it's like this big, vast expanse flow of different patterns that can raise the body like a big wave and kind of sink you down into the depths of the ocean. And it kind of is about finding balance. That way you can float amidst the top of the water and still breathe and still feel seen and cloaked in this essence of what is always surrounding you. And so when we become chaos, that is the emotional somatization. That is like the spider web to the fly, when the fly gets stuck in the web. And so that is like emotion that becomes absorbed in the body. It's when you start drowning in the ocean instead of floating amidst the ocean.
Or surfing or yes,
any of those activities that allow you to stay afloat, but also submerged at the same time. To be a human is to not be in a spiritual bypass. We are not talking about this today because we're trying to surpass what it is to live in the human experience. I think that emotional somatization is an important topic because, like Lindsay said, these emotions, when you start drowning in it, they can latch on to the resonance of the organ that most closely aligns to the imbalance of that emotion. And so when we have resonance, let's say the liver, the frequency of the liver and the frequency of anger, when on the negative spectrum, those align. And so anger is most commonly going to get sucked in to that specific organ rather than another one. And it's all about resonance. So the emotion of today is what we're going to be discussing is what is most commonly going to latch on to that specific feeling and what is going to allow it to let go. Because the medicine is also in the trap. So when we understand frequency of emotion and when we feel things, especially over time, I think that it's most important to say with emotional somatization that it's not just you feel anger once and you have an unhealthy liver. It is the inability to transmute that energy. So we can drown in the ocean, but also we can swim back to the top. And I'm using this analogy over and over again because I feel like it's important to understand the visual of it.
Yes.
We can begin to drown and save ourselves. We can sink to the bottom of the floor to grab a seashell and learn something and swim back up to the top. And so it's about understanding how to move that energy through the body. And so today with emotional somatization, Lindsay and I are also going to talk about how to transmute that and to get yourself back to being submerged, but also floating on top of that emotion.
Yes. And it's so cool. There's so many ways and metaphors to explain this, and however it resonates for you, of how you've become aware of your emotions and how you've been able to learn tools to be able to move through them, right? So we don't shove them down anymore, that we can know that it is safe to feel certain things and give ourselves whatever the body needs to actually transmute these energies. And it's so interesting because I definitely want to touch too on what we're talking about today, specifically with the genitals and how the energetics can manifest, right, within UTIs, yeast infections, whatever the womb is speaking of. We're also going to touch on the male organs as well, and with the chakra systems, right? I mean, everything is energy, guys. This is when we don't consider that everything is energy, we really are not getting to the bottom of all of this. And I know you wanted to disclaim some things today when we're talking about these ailments and how we personally have healed ourselves. But as a disclaimer, this is not medical advice. We are not telling you that this is the way.
Absolute.
This is not the absolute. Of course, if you are experiencing these things, absolutely go see a trusted doctor or physician that you have connected with. But these are just alternative perspectives and our personal experiences on how we have come into contact with these energetics and now have such a beautiful relationship with the body and how it manifests in these dysfunctions, right? Because they're actually just clues that we are healing.
Yes,
Yay!
absolutely. And I think back to the first episode that we had, it's about miscommunicating the energetic language of the body. And so when these symptom presentations display themselves in different ways, these are all just symbolic metaphors to how the body wants you to deeper understand and deeper dive into that broad, vast spectrum of the spiritual body. So to begin, we are going to begin with the 3 primary female reproductive organs. And you will notice a trend today, even as we deep dive into the female and male, there's a correlation of the organ function to the emotional storage that occurs there, which has to do with resonance, which has to do with the actual biological function of that specific organ, and also the spiritual functioning as it moves through that organ space. So today we are going to begin with the cervix. When you think of the cervix, what is the first thing that you think of as its primary function, the cervix?
As its primary function?
Yes.
The holding of, for me, it's so energetic at this point.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But the holding of our reproductive, well, that's more ovaries, but the holding of our reproductive ability to take in fermentation from semen. Is that right? I want you to educate me on this. I need more education on my own cervix.
So you said something. You said the pathway of semen moving into the... So it is. That is the literal portal.
Like an access point.
It is the access point. It is the railroad from the outside genitalia to the inner womb space.
Ooh.
So it is the portal of transformation. It is the sacred tunnel between the inner and the outer world.
I have chills right now thinking about this.
Yes. The cervix is the first thing that I think about the like traditional biological function of the cervix is that's where the baby comes through. So when the baby is descending, it's the canal, the cervical canal. Yes. So it is the portal, like I said, between the physical and the metaphysical world.
Wow.
Energetically and emotionally, the cervix is known to store unprocessed emotions, traumas, energetic imprints that may manifest physically from maybe when you were in utero or when your mom's mom was in utero. These are all generational things that can be passed down through the cervix because, like I said, it's the portal between the inner and the outer world.
Wow.
So as things are moving through the womb space, the cervix is like a primary container for anything that can get stuck there, including babies.
Ooh.
So...
And when we say womb, does it encapsulate the cervix, the ovaries, and the uterus? Or
when I speak of the womb, yes.
Okay, you're speaking of all 3 parts.
I am. But primarily, the womb space is more often associated with the uterus itself.
Got it.
But when I think of the womb, that's why I always say the womb space, because I feel like it's important to encapsulate all of the primary structures there. Because they all contribute. So the emotional storage of the cervix particularly is related to intimacy, boundaries, creativity, and personal power. And I'm sure that you have also heard the connection between the throat and the cervical region as well. So when we think about the railroad tunnel, the tunnel of the throat and the tunnel of the cervix, it's the connection between the outer world, what we say, and what we release from the womb space, our cervical mucus, babies, blood, anything. It's all traveling through that. And so when we don't express our fullest truth, we don't speak our fullest truth, we don't have an open throat to allow things to pass through with ease, we can also manifest things within our cervix to become hypertonic or really tight, which will prevent us from having deep, luscious intimacy, free, painless bleeds, adequate cervical lubrication, and also just trust to surrender.
Ooh, so much there. And women, I'm sure you guys listening and you're relating to your own body and how you've felt maybe this discord between, wow, I haven't felt safe enough to speak my truth, have boundaries. And the boundaries are not even just being able to speak your boundaries to someone else, right? This is even being aware of your own boundaries. Our first relationship is with ourselves, that we don't even know we have boundaries, right? This is where the intimacy comes in with somatization, is deepening your intimacy with your own body and all its parts so that you may even know, wow, I have a boundary there. And that is, I do not feel consensual to this activity. I am trying to grasp from it and use it to feel a different way, but I am not being real about what I really desire and what is possible for what my vagina and what my pleasure center can feel. I mean, we'll get into sex and all of this, but this is huge when we are unraveling the deep, deep, deep numbness, really, that goes on in our womb space.
Numbness. To begin with that symptom presentation specifically, we can say that numbness correlates to a disconnection from our authentic sexual expression, from suppressed trauma, either through sex or just in general emotional trauma.
So women, if you claim you can't have orgasms, if you say it's hard for you to have an orgasm, they say it's like a 20-minute warm up. There's so many statistics on like the woman's body and what it takes to warm it up. But I am here to attest, and I know Alyssa is too, that when you are aligned with your own self and within a safe container, it really doesn't take that long to be super turned on, beautifully open, and so ready to receive pleasure.
I agree, but I also have to say, as a disclosure, not every day is like that for me, because we are all human, and there are ever-changing human experiences that may take a toll on me. Because, like I said, this is not about spiritual bypass or thinking that you are better or bigger or smarter or more elevated and woke than somebody else, but just to say that if you're having a sexual experience and you're really not even feeling your man or your woman's counterparts inside of your body, you're feeling numb there, you're not even feeling the fullness of what it feels like to be penetrated, to be inserted into, it's going to be correlated to your disconnection of what you're really desiring, your lack of emotional and sexual expression there, and it's really taking the toll on your cervical area. To move from there, the most common symptom presentation that I see with the cervical area is hypertonicity or tightness. So the inability to either get the penetrational item or counterpart into the vaginal cavity, into the cervix, to just even dilate to receive. And that symptom presentation correlates with a fear of surrendering, unresolved sexual emotional wounds there, or fear of deep intimacy. So when we subconsciously, we might be thinking, I love this. This man is so sexy. This woman is so beautiful. I can't wait to have this. But your subconscious levels are saying, I don't really deserve this. I'm kind of scared because if I open up all the way, they're going to really see me. I'm going to make a weird sound. They're going to see my tummy rolls when they have me in a certain position. My ass doesn't look fat in that position. Did I shave? Did I forget a part? It's this subconscious like tightening to try to guard you as armor.
And we can all relate to those stories running through our head when we go to be intimate with partners, right? It's like these stories keep playing and then you're so taken out of the moment that you're not even realizing. And then that's when boundaries get busted because you're like, oh, okay, now I feel like I need to be performance. I'm not getting wet enough. It's not allowing. So you grab for lube and you do all these things to try to force and even more, right? Yeah. She's speaking and holding all of these times that we've done this very subconsciously, right? We're not purposely or maliciously busting our own boundaries, but when we deepen our understanding, this is where the healing is. I've had beautiful experiences where I'm deeply crying and realizing and remembering all the times that I shoved her down or that I busted her boundaries. I was not listening. I was so disconnected. My heart and my womb were disconnected.
Two separate areas of the world.
Two separate areas.
Chronic infections, HPV, yeast infections, UTIs. This is, if hypertonicity is probably the number one that I've seen in my client clinical experience, but behind that is going to be infections. And when we talk about bacterial, fungal, viral infections that can transmit between, we're talking about stored grief, energetic stagnation, and most importantly, resistance to transformation. I think that the energy, from my personal experience, when I was in my 15 all the way until around 20, about 5-year duration, I had this unbelievable grief and fear around my future and my career and my money and my body. I had the most UTIs and yeast infections at that time.
Wow.
And anytime that my body begins to feel itchy or irritated or like it starts to hurt to pee, I know that my body is holding on to fear immediately.
Interesting. So with UTIs, did you have UTI and yeast at the same time?
Oh, there were times in my life that I've had both. Yeah, unfortunately.
Wow.
But the bladder itself, which something that we're not going to talk about today, but the bladder itself is the fear center. That holds fear more than any other organ in the body.
And what about anger as well? I've heard this of UTIs being correlated with anger, or again, it could be, fear and anger is maybe the emotion of like, I'm mad that I've maybe busted boundaries or allowed certain things, or maybe not allowing yourself to feel angry about whatever, right? Maybe it doesn't have to do with your actual center or your pleasure centers or your womb space, but maybe you are feeling angry about something and it is manifesting through the bladder or some sort of UTI.
It absolutely could. Anger also resides in the kidney, which the kidney is a primary filtering organ for the bladder. So the anger may be being stored in the kidneys itself, transferring down through the urethra into the bladder and then transferring outwards.
Tell us a little bit about, with those symptoms that you've personally dealt with, how you not only connected with the deeper understanding of them like you just shared, but how you transmuted them and what has been your experience since then with them.
The most important changes that I have made to completely obliterate yeast infections and UTIs from my everyday life have been incorporating gentle womb-related herbs into my every single day diet. Every single day, without a doubt. I am mixing between sarsaparilla, which is a diuretic and helps to support the kidneys and the bladder to help with that fear. I work with burdock root, which also stimulates and cleanses and detoxifies the blood, which the blood is where all of that emotional chi is moving through. It pairs right alongside with the blood. Blood and chi move together. And so in order to have a clear flowing energetic flow, you have to have clear blood as well. They are one and the same, not one or the other. And so I use burdock root as well. And just to deeply connect to my womb space, I'm always rotating between blue lotus, red raspberry leaf, calendula, rose, whatever feels right, whatever phase of my cycle I'm in, every single morning alongside shilajit, which is a highly mineralized resin that forms in the Himalayan mountains and is stored and bottled. And that has made a tremendous difference for me. Sexually, feeling good in my body, maintaining the health of my reproductive organs, because it's supplying, your reproductive organs need minerals. Your whole body does, but specifically if we're talking about that, your reproductive organs, in order to make adequate, healthy hormones to find balance, minerals are the first counterpart of that building block for hormonal balance.
Wow.
And so those things supplementally have helped me a lot. Energetically, womb meditations, massaging my abdomen, self-pleasure routines, manifesting during orgasm has been a huge thing in my practice that has changed how I view my yoni, how I view my vulva, how I view my breasts, how I view sex. And it's made it more enticing, exciting, magical. And I feel like that belief around your private parts, to shame them, to hide them, creates a bigger spider web for flies to get trapped, because you are creating this spider web of shame, and it just becomes so much easier for things to manifest in pain and disease and infection, rather than if you believe and love your body for what it is.
Wow. So yeah, there's beautiful aspects of physically supplementing that you've done, energetic meditations, and I'm sure movement and connection, right? It's however you are going to connect with your body. And these are all, of course, examples of what we've done. And yeah, I mean, this subject is so big when we are unraveling so much of what we've not been taught about this area. So yeah, I'm so excited to continue this conversation. So the cervix, then what are we holding in?
The uterus.
The UTI.
The uterus is the energetic center of creation, intuition, and deep emotional memory. We sit on our sacred seat, which is our sacrum, and the pelvic bowl encompasses our womb space and protects it like armor, in the same way that our cranium protects our brain. These are the two primary intuitive structures that are protected by a bowl of bony structures. And the uterus itself is known to hold abandonment, self-doubt, longing, and specifically, again, trauma in utero or in birth. That can be self-trauma in utero and birth. That could be generational, ancestral trauma in utero and birth. And this can also lead from heartbreak, miscarriage, abortions, betrayal, and sexual emotional wounds can also be stored there as well.
I was reading or listening to something recently about even the umbilical cord, talking about, birth trauma, right? We really don't even talk about this as much, and we don't realize how much trauma there is in basically everyone's birth. I mean, we're literally transported from pureness into this world to experience it as our soul's desire. However, so much is cut off and has been designed to cut us off, right? So there's an interesting thing with the umbilical cord that was, immediately, as the baby comes out and they cut the umbilical cord, which is literally our life force for 9 months in our mother's womb. But they say if you leave it 20 minutes to 2 hours, that's all the blood can come back into the baby and really allow it to have its full connection to where it came from. We are all remembering where we came from, but I think the next generation is finally learning, wow, we've been disconnected so much, so now we're reconnecting and doing things a lot differently.
This is true. Also, the fluids that surround in the embryonic sac when you are born, that they suction out of your nose and out of your eyes and out of your ears and out of your mouth with like a literal turkey baster type tool.
Yes.
All of that is quite literally medicine for your mucous membranes, for your esophagus. It starts your immune system. It goes into your sinus cavity and starts and stimulates your immune system, and they suck it right out of you as soon as you come out.
Ladies, and this way we're coming back to your period and all of our bodily nasties are medicine.
They are.
Like, they're just sucking that. They're like, no, y'all, you don't need that. That's nasty. It's like, first of all, who said that was nasty? Who said it's nasty to put period blood on my face?
Getting back to the uterus. The uterus is the sacred container, right? So it's holding all of the primary reproductive organs for a woman. And the symptom presentation is vast here. This can be conditions like fibroids, endometriosis, irregular cycles. And if we begin with fibroids and cystic activity within this space, this is related to unprocessed grief, creative stagnation, or suppressed emotion. Cystic activity is quite literally the fluid, like we said, going back to the ocean, the energetic water that is your emotion is getting stuck in a sac. That is a cyst. It is literally the emotional stagnicity in the form of a physical object. Ooh. Same thing with fibroids.
Wow. And I know many friends who have dealt with this and, have done everything to try to get it down and what have you. But, hopefully with this conversation, it gives you a different perspective of any ailments or any physical pain or disease that you have had or experienced in your womb space.
And inspiring you to connect deeper. The theme here a lot today is creative expression. We as humans just don't have enough playtime. We don't have enough creative time. And it's really taking away from our primary superpower, and that is to create.
Right. Hey, newsflash, you're an artist. You're literally an artist. You're a creator.
So hopefully this gives you the perspective of really honing into your childlike interests of coloring and painting and exploring and knitting and whatever, all the things.
Yes.
Following that is endometriosis. So this is related to deep-seated emotional pain, difficulty letting go, and feeling unsafe in one's body.
Oof. Huge. Huge. Wow. And and we'll get on this topic, I'm sure, when it comes to the maybe Western and Eastern ways of addressing these issues, right, is hormonal birth control and getting people immediately on that so that they're just out of the pain instead of trying to, even just for a moment, realize how much other things can be going into endometriosis. But so big.
Absolutely. Amenorrhea or irregular menstrual cycles correlate to the disconnection from your divine feminine energy, as well as lack of self-nurturing and chronic stress. That is the primary thing. When you have irregular periods, everyone talks about, oh, you're just stressed. You're just really stressed that month. That's why it came late. That's why it came early. That's why you bled really heavy. But it's also related to our divine feminine cycles. When we cyclically change every week for 28 days or less, we are required to connect deeply to that flow. And so when we don't, it affects our physical menstrual flow.
Wow. Right.
To amenorrhea.
And this is what we're unraveling as a collective, right? Is getting out of that masculine way and understanding that you do not need to be on like a man all the time. That, and I'm sure Alyssa will go into the planetary understanding of that we are the lunar and the men are solar, right? And we are, according with the moon cycles, we are different every day.
We are 28 days and they are 24 hours.
So we have to bow to the reverence of this. This is the sacredness of life, is that you have to bow to the way in which your body operates to operate primally. I mean, if you want to continue making fun and joking about all the dysfunctions and I've come into recent understanding of how when I talk about these subjects, some people are still so disconnected from the fact that when is it not going to be funny anymore to start talking about our disconnections from this stuff, right? When are we going to bring it back to the sacredness? That this is all sacred.
Well, humor is also an elevating. To laugh is to levitate. And so I think that laughing at oneself allows them to raise higher into that consciousness. So whatever path allows people to get there,
amen, sister girl.
You gotta take it. Last one here for the uterus is infertility. So when we think about the ability to latch on to the seed of life, which is sperm, we can have energetic blocks around creation. We can have energetic blocks about stepping into one's fullest authentic power and expression, and also the subconscious, unconscious beliefs surrounding worthiness of creation. My voice isn't good enough. My ideas won't make me money. Everyone does that. There's so many people already doing that. What's going to be different and special about mine? Infertility.
Wow.
Such a beautiful topic. The last one, ovaries.
Hey.
Ovaries are going to hold on to unprocessed grief and loss, which again can be generational, self, ancestral. Unexpressed creative expression, once again, because the ovaries itself are the seat of creative expression. They directly correlate to the sacral chakra, and they represent personal power, self-worthiness, and how one relates to their feminine divine identity. So the ovaries hold all of the eggs that a woman will have in her life. So they are holding the seeds of her creation, which is rooted in her divine feminine. And so if one doesn't believe that she has a powerful and authentic creative expression, and or she allows unprocessed grief and loss to dictate and run her life and sit in the driver's seat of her life, her ovaries may feel disempowered. They may feel unworthy. They may feel disconnected from her inner wisdom, and they may show up as ovarian dysfunction.
Wow. Makes so much sense. I mean, it's so funny when we start to listen and hear about this stuff. It's like something clicks and we start to remember, oh, right. Everything's connected. The body is listening.
And all of these things have to do with the actual function of the body. It's not like you're talking about red and you're talking about green all at the same time. You're talking about the same function of the body correlating with a corresponding emotional energetic expression that we all do. And to get into the ovarian dysfunction, we can start with the most common, and that is hormonal imbalances. So this stems from the disconnection from emotional needs, overexertion, and chronic stress, as well as lack of self-nurturing again. To release hormones, we think about cortisol and steroid hormones. Those are all hormones as well. So when you are chronically stressed, your body is running on a hormonal cocktail of adrenaline, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. But if your body never, which is good because it keeps you safe, it keeps you active, it keeps you alert, it keeps you creative, whatever. But if your body is always drinking this cocktail and never gets into the hormonal expression of serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine to create, and estrogen, just to sit down in that feminine, relaxed surrender, you're going to have an imbalance of hormones. The body has to feel safe in order to be balanced regardless. So if you're at chronic stress, your hormones are also going to be imbalanced.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and which is the majority of women, we don't even realize how stressed we are. That's the thing. It's like,
this is so
we start to become aware of, oh, I thought going to get a pedicure every week and getting a massage once in a while, like I'm doing self-care. You know, I was so that girl. Was like, and I remember my mom even making a comment about it. It's like, wow, you do so good about getting your nails done. And it's like, yes, of course, those things are beautiful. But when you're conscious about how you are spending your self-care and how you are nourishing yourself, it becomes such a different ballgame when you go and do those things for yourself, right? It's a different energy when you are really nourishing and nurturing your cycles. I mean, this is coming down to what we believe we're building in this new earth or this new way of being, is that women should not be working the day or the week of their bleed, right? We should be on a 3-week off. Like everyone should be working, right? Like, of course, work can be all sorts of things, but we have to follow
physical, hardcore exertion.
Yes, just getting out of the masculine way of what makes you successful and how you need to be showing up to feel worthy, valued, lovable, successful, all of these things, and realizing, wow, when I actually dive deeper into the nourishment of who I am as a divine feminine, that is when your power comes online even more. And then the world just completely bows to how you are showing up for your body and yourself.
True. And that's rooted in intuition. You have to be able to connect to your inner wisdom, your inner guidance, and to stop doubting what's coming through. Is that my own voice? Is that my mom's voice? Is that my sister's voice? This is all rooted in connecting to that deep knowing and trusting that voice and letting it guide you there.
Yes.
But that cannot come online and move through the portal and go into your body if it is closed and tight and blocked.
Yes.
So
if it is scared,
we create physical barriers, energetic barriers. They are one and the same. The physical barriers being fibroids and cystic activity, the energetic barriers being emotional somatization, fear, anger, resentment. Moving forward, ovarian cysts, again, on the topic of cystarian activity, holding on to unprocessed emotions, stagnant creativity, fear of change. And we can also even dive this deeper into PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, suppressed feminine energy, which PCOS leads to a raise in testosterone, and overproduction of the masculine yang energy, which again is from that raise in testosterone. That is the energetic resistance there. And it really is all rooted in resistance to receiving. What's so important to understand here is that most of our population isn't born with PCOS. We aren't born with ovarian cysts and fibroids and endometriosis. These things happen over time. And we can play victim to that by saying, oh, my mom has endometriosis and my grandma has endometriosis, so I'm going to have endometriosis, right? That's
well, it runs
passage.
in your family until someone stops running from the issues. Of course, you guys all have the same thing showing up in the body, right? But when is it going to be a time where, you can change that? You can literally shift the whole course of your lineage by just deepening your understanding of your body deeper.
And that's changing the epigenetic expression of that generational disease presentation, that generational pain presentation. These are all communication of the body. These are all languages of the body that are trying to be expressed. Like you
Yeah.
said, it comes a time where someone has to address it. And you're not only addressing it for yourself, and that's the thing where it becomes heavy and it becomes dense, because you're addressing it for your family. You're addressing it for your bloodline. Your
Yes.
ancestors are praising you for being strong enough to stand up and be like, enough is enough. Where is
Yeah.
this coming from?
This is
What
not
the
normal,
core knot
right?
here?
This is not normal. We're not
Absolutely.
accepting our dysfunctional families anymore as normal, and we're making a new lineage, which is so beautiful. And
that lies in forgiveness, because our ancestors, our mom, our grandparents just didn't have the tools, or they didn't want to grasp the tools that they had.
could you
And
real quick touch on how forgiveness is time travel?
for sure. The concept that forgiveness is time travel lies in the understanding of what forgiveness requires. To actually forgive someone or something that has occurred to you, you must mentally, energetically revisit that experience in its entirety all over again. You must actually place yourself there in its completeness to re-experience and let that experience move you, and then find and hold unconditional love to then cleanse the timeline and move forward in the present, which is time travel essentially, because you're going backwards in order to move forwards.
Wow, so cool. Thanks
That's
for
my
that little-
favorite.
Thanks
That's
for
my
that little
favorite.
that little side road. We just had to take a little trip. We saw some cute coffee shops, so we had to go there real quick.
Yes.
We're back on the road. I wanted to real quick. I know that we're still in the ovaries, but as a whole, when it comes to, as we've talked about the different sections of our womb space and how that manifests in physical. So PMDD is something that I know so many women have, related to having, right? But there's no research or there's no cause known in the Western medical world, right? That they're like, we don't know what this is called, right?
Yeah, women are crazy.
Yeah, women are crazy. You're just depressed. You need to chill out. Get on antidepressant.
Zoloft.
Yeah. I mean, I was prescribed
Yeah,
antidepressant for PMDD.
absolutely.
And, and listen, tools are tools,
They are.
but it is such a different perspective when we're talking about all this stuff and what is really going on, that of course your body is going to react and want to disassociate and resist your cycle when you keep resisting it. It's going to resist you, right? It's so correlated. So yeah, I wanted to bring that up with women who deal with PMDD, which is just extreme mood changes. PMS symptoms are just, I used to have deep existential crisis basically every single month, same exact days. So it was like very correlated with where I was in my cycle, but I would have severe existential crisis and deep depression, anxiety. And then as soon as my bleed comes, I'm back to normal. And it was wild. It's like I was so disconnected from myself and was grasping at everything to come back to center and to find that peace.
If we break that down, your flow was quite literally pulling off the layer of you that didn't feel worthy, creative, grounded, belief, faith, hope, all of those things. It was pulling the layer off of you, which then released it into your body extensively, exaggeratingly. It releases it into your body. And then, like you said, right after your flow, right after you have passed that, you regulate. And again, it goes back to the understanding that when our body is developing a disease, experiencing pain, it is actually trying to tell us whatever it is that you are grounded in right now, whatever you think that this is, it is not. And there has to be a shift. Your body is actually saying, this is not the right way. We have to make a shift here. It's not working against you and punishing you for making that decision. It's actually saying, hey, let's reroute, let's rewire, let's revisit this, because I can't let this go if you don't let it go. I'm now just holding on to it for you.
Yes.
And your body's like,
letting
I'm tired.
It's a message.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm tired.
And when you say too, the way I've learned my own body in regard to things showing up like yeast infections and UTIs was that that with the correlating emotion to those ailments was finally ready to work itself through. Because I had never experienced or dealt with yeast infections until last year, right? And I'm in my 30s. So I deeply connected to the emotional understanding of yeast infection. I personally, had of course, like wanted to understand what I was doing for my pH balance and why everything was off from a gut perspective and blah, blah, blah. However, very important in tandem with what is going on. What is the deep, dark truth of Candida and what is the emotional understanding of this? And yeah, it was so wild for me to where I was in my journey and understanding the womb and all of that. That's when it started to present itself. But it was finally, and ailments to me too, right? It's like, you're not trying to fix the ailment in regard to making it better because, you know, it needs to be fixed. It is working itself. It is the body telling you a message, right? So it's like when you bow to it, it was telling me that there's deep unworthiness, right? There's deep womb wounds there, that it wasn't even my own unworthiness, was actually an unworthiness that I personally was receiving from my mother in the womb. And I even confirmed this. I was asking her, what were you feeling unworthiness when you were pregnant with me? And she confirmed, yes. I was like, wow. Okay. So
Candida feeds on fear.
Ooh.
Same. I was born with thrush, which is a full body Candida overgrowth. And I had like thick white coatings when I was born. I was born with a lung deficiency, and I was born with thrush as soon as I came out of the womb. And my mom also confirmed that she was struggling with so many different emotional wounds while she was pregnant with me about her worthiness and her belief that she was going to be a good mother and that she was going to be able to provide and surrender to whatever problems were brought up, whatever experiences, whatever challenges I brought up into her life as a child.
Aww.
And it took me the first year of my life to heal thrush. Did I heal that holistically? No. They were pumping antibiotics into my body at the age of 1 month.
Wow.
What did that do to my gut? And so as a child growing up, it was very frequent for me to have yeast infections and UTIs because Candida feeds on fear. Candida feeds on uncertainty. And that's why it craves things that keep you in that imbalance, like sugar and bullshit.
Sugar and bullshit.
Sugar and bullshit, bro.
Sugar and baby. That's what it feeds off. That's what it's trying to take from you, is the sugar and the
hungry.
bullshit. So when you got sugar and the bullshit in your life, Candida's right there.
Look, Candida's gonna be hungry.
Alrighty.
We're gonna conclude there with the in-depth experiences of the emotional somatization of the female reproductive organs, and now shift into the 3 primary male.
Ooh, boys, listen up, boys.
Listen up, boys.
You guys also have problems too. It's not just us. You understand?
Men and women are crazy.
Humans are crazy.
Humans are crazy.
We off our rockers.
Are.
And who's the rocker,
and it's so
though?
fun.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be on the rocker.
Crash out as a treat. As an entree crash out.
Hey.
We're going to begin today with the prostate.
Tell us.
Okay, so like again, revisiting the concept that the biological function of the structure is going to correlate with the emotional concept and function of the structure. So the prostate holds the seed of life. It matures and holds sperm until it is ready to move through the ejaculatory duct into the penis for external release. So if the prostate holds the seed of life, it's going to be grounded in a man's divine masculinity, because that is where he creates. It's going to be grounded in his ability to provide, to create, and also his vitality, his strength, and his potency. Because not only is this structure holding the semen, holding the seed, holding the sperm, it is allowing the sperm to be potent, fertile for creation, and for providing something to his counterpart, whether that be another man or woman. So the emotion, energetically and physically, because when you release that sperm, you are providing something. You want it to be potent life force sperm versus acidic monster energy, fire, oil coming
nasty. That's why sometimes, listen, we told y'all, we're gonna be real with y'all. If your semen stank, or you got a bad, I know that there's been women who have experienced, tasting semen, and it's like, there's something really off about this.
Men, you should taste your own semen in the same way that women, you should just stick your fingers in there once a while and just check in on shawty.
Hey.
Because ain't nothing gay about that either. That's just...
That's going to be an edge for people. But hey, we're here to push you over the edge if you so consent.
Your nasties are not nasty. All right. Anyway, if you want your woman to drink it, you better drink it too. Anyway,
Amen,
next.
brother.
The emotions that can be stored here are going to be derived around emotional detachment, harsh disciplining from their upbringing, ancestrally or self, and also their disempowered masculinity and their belief that they can provide.
So what are the elements that show up in the prostate?
The most common that I have seen is going to be BPH, which is going to be enlarged prostate. And this is going to be correlated to fear of losing control, diminished masculinity, as well as fear of aging and fear of losing function of their penis.
Wow.
And of their sexual
So that
energy.
will engorge the prostate and cause pain.
Will. So if things are not allowing, so if the prostate is the structure, again, that is holding this life force, this seed of creation, and you don't believe that you, even as you age, even as you evolve, even as you change, that you're still going to be grounded in your prime masculine, in your divine masculine, in your ability to just show up and have containment. This is grounded in masculine containment.
To be able to hold.
When people are in your space to make people feel safe because you feel safe. You are confident in what you provide and what you bring because you are a creator of your reality.
Wow.
So enlarged prostate is going to cause inflammation there.
Okay.
The next one that I have seen is going to be correlating to prostate cancer, which is like
Pretty
one
common.
of the top cancers of the male population in the United States.
Wow.
And this is going to be correlated to deep-rooted guilt
Ooh!
as the number one. Cancer is rooted around guilt. It is. Cancer's development is, yes, guilt and resentment is a killer, is a silent killer.
Yes.
And as well as unresolved generational trauma. It seems like that's a very big trend with all of these disease presentations, that there is an unresolved issue here, as well as fear of unfulfilled legacy.
Wow.
Masculinity is very rooted in their ability to provide, and that is your legacy. What are you leaving for your children? The seed of your life. What are you leaving to support them even after you've passed? This fear of like, once I die, what will be there? What imprint have I left on the world?
Yeah.
That defines a man's ability to feel like he completed his life journey, his soul
Wow.
purpose.
Wow. So beautiful.
The next one after that is going to be prostatitis, which would just be inflammation of the prostate. And this is related to suppressed anger, resentment, and again, unresolved sexual emotional tension. So when we think about something inflaming itself, inflammation is actually a healing process. But when it's chronic and when it's unresolved, it can be a serious issue. Because when we have an increase of blood flow, the white blood cells are going to that area because they're trying to increase the flow in order to stimulate the healing process. Inflammation is the first step of the healing process with any injury.
Sure.
So if the prostate is getting inflamed, something happened in order to have that inflammation. There's a healing process that is trying to occur, but prostatitis is chronic, unresolved, unaddressed inflammation, trauma.
Ouchies.
Yeah. And after that, we can also begin to talk about, which will be kind of incorporated in every single one of these three primary parts of the masculine male reproductive organs, and that is erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
This is going to be related specifically to prostate issues related to shame, fear of rejection, and or suppressed desire.
Wow. Suppressed desire. Wow. It's like you guys have desires too. And, you know, this is where I have beautiful sex worker friends who have, you know, been in the club and when working, these men come in and they're like, you are the only woman I feel safe enough to express my desires to, right? If these men go to strip clubs and, you know, and seek these safe spaces, not with their wives or their families or their girlfriends, because they need somewhere to feel safe that they even have the desires to begin with.
Safety is also rooted in the belief of freedom. So if there is a relationship that this individual is in that is not allowing his sexual fantasies, his sexual primal instincts to transpire, then this is going to lead to shame, fear of rejection, because he can't express his sexual needs and desires in ways that he wants to because his counterpart doesn't want it that way. And this is all rooted in communication. This is not saying that his counterpart, whether it is male, female, binary didn't want that. It's just that there's no communication and it's really hard and can be really shameful to be like, I don't want it like that.
Yeah.
That's how you want it, but I don't want it like that. Or I need this. And to admit that you're having a dysfunction sexually, that is the root of the human experience. Having sex is like one of the primary vital signs of the human experience. Like we are meant here. We came here to the human experience to have sex. Whether that is with self, if you are asexual, with multiple people, if you're polyamorous, or with one if you're monogamous. And there's a whole spectrum of sex there. But nonetheless, sexual expression is our divine human right. And so when you are not able to express that in the way that you want to, dysfunction happens.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's not just biological. It's not that your penis just doesn't work. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that really is the information that's being given.
Yeah.
You know?
New information, guys. Hopefully this is sparking some other perspectives in what, again, we are not taught, or what we have been taught, and then trying to wrap our heads around why this keeps happening, or and accepting the dysfunctions as normal, and then just coming to this place of settling but feeling this deeper knowing that this is not right? Like listen to those intuitive hits that whatever your body is going through, yes, of course, it's supporting you and the body knows what to do. And it is not only communicating with you, hey, maybe this is not the course, or it's healing something, right? However, coming to these awarenesses of how deeply rooted emotions are with dysfunctions, energy is everything. We'll always come back to this in this podcast and in the subjects that we've created for you guys to hear, and in our own experience of how we've now become so subtly sensitive to energy and how that moves, and fluid and the elements and all of that.
Sexual energy is rooted in confidence as well as surrender. And so today, when we're talking about the language of the genitals, it requires a masculine and a feminine balance of surrendering and of confidence to take action. So when there is one without the other,
right,
that's how that transpires. Moving into the testicles, we are talking about the creation of productivity and of life force in the testicles. And we have a left testicle and we have a right testicle. So right there, we are having almost like a weighted scale of your masculine and your feminine there in the masculine reproductive system.
Interesting.
And so when we have normally most men are born with one testicle that is larger than the other. And this varies between everyone. Same thing with women and their breasts.
Yes.
Women are born with one that is larger than the other. Does this mean that one is more dominant energetically? Who knows? I feel like it varies from person to person. And you have to understand your own genitalia language to understand that. I don't feel like it's an end-all be-all. And so if we're talking about the testicles, on a biological level, the testicles are responsible for creating and sustaining that life force, that seed, right? But also the energy can extend into creative power, ambition, and manifestation of a man's desires in his life. And if a man feels blocked from his testicular energy, uninspired, unfulfilled, this may somaticize in the testicles as multiple different dysfunctions, swelling, pain. The first one and most common one will probably be testicular pain and swelling, which has to correlate with fear of failure, as well as creative blockages and unresolved suppressed emotion and trauma.
Wow.
So here we go, just starting with generalized pain and inflammation. Inflammation is the beginning of the healing process. So if something is happening there, the body is trying to attack it, but it cannot do everything without your action and your consent and your surrender. Moving from that, we can go into hormonal imbalances, low sperm count, or just infertility. And that has to do with blocked creative energy, disconnection from source, God, the universal flow of nature, as well as fear of not being enough. So if we talked about infertility with women, we go again now to infertility with men, this idea that you cannot create. The subconscious belief that whatever it is that your soul's purpose of actually being here to do, if you work at a gas station as a cashier and that's what you do for work, but you really want to start a business selling
hot dogs,
lawnmowers.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you
Whatever
just love
you love.
grass. You love earth energy and you just want to cut that shit down, but you don't have the belief that your lawnmower is going to be better than John Deere.
Amen.
It can show up with infertility. And I really feel like this shows up a lot in the male population because men are really victim to like this idea that they have to go into the generalized concept of work and they don't have any type of creative ideas.
Right.
Men are fathers and men are workers and men are suppliers and everyone needs something from them.
Yep.
And they don't have time for themselves and they lose their identity, their belief that they are creators too.
Yes. Wow. So deep. And it's what we're unwinding is toxic masculinity. That right there is that you also have feminine energy. You came from a woman. You are also the beautiful blend of mother and father, and dipping into your own femininity is where that game starts, is where that beautiful journey of becoming so present with the body and understanding that you're a creator. Yes. That there's not just always on the go. You also deserve rest and emotional rejuvenation.
For sure. The next one here is going to be swollen veins in the testicles, which could also be called varicoceles. And these correlate any type of swollen vein. So veins primarily are moving deoxygenated blood back towards the heart, right? So arteries move oxygenated blood through the body and veins move deoxygenated blood through the body.
Yes.
So if we correlate that function.
She's reminded me of what I learned in massage school. Got
Yes.
it. Remembering.
If we think about the function there,
Yes.
there are veins in the testicles. We are talking about stagnant energy. Also the return back to center. There's some kind of blockage there of like returning. We are putting so much out, but nothing is returning. And also the suppressed anger or deep anxiety around worth. So we're masculine, putting out so much action, no return of action and nourishment back to self, which can lead to swelling of those veins in the testicles.
Wow.
Last one here is going to be testicular torsion. So most of the time testicular torsion comes from a contact injury. So like somebody getting kicked in the nuts or like your dog running into you.
Yeah.
Or something like you twisting wrong. Like if you're running and you twist wrong, it can really help. It can really hurt the testicles there. Also, a lot of like abdominal energies can also really hurt, like strain, constipation, strain on the abdomen, doing too hard of exercises in that area, or like really rough, abrupt sex where the testicles are slapping really hard can cause testicular torsion.
Oof.
However, the emotional somatization without a contact injury can be fear of losing power and deep-seated feelings of emasculinization or unworthiness. So a lot of root here in the testicles and unworthiness. So if we think about where the testicles are located, those are the root chakra. Those are the very bottom of a man. That's your weighted scale that's hanging down towards the earth that moves with you like a little swinging ball. It literally is your swinging balls. And they can be injured and they can hold emotions there. So it is your weighted scale of balance.
Yeah, they're so sensitive and so precious, and
They are.
ugh.
And the root chakra is grounded in worthiness.
Yeah. So talking about the root chakra real quick, I have this book that I've been reading, and of course I go back to it, Eastern Body, Western Mind, that the element of our root is earth.
Yes.
Right? And the demon that can live there is fear.
Yes.
Which, when we say demon, right, it's these lower vibrations, it's these elements that, you know, are very necessary for the human experience, but
Yes.
those are what we're referring to as demons. The purpose is foundation. And yeah, if there's a deficiency in this area of your root, right, disconnection from the body, deficiencies is disconnection from the body, notably underweight, fearful, anxious, restless, can't settle down, poor focus or discipline, financial difficulty, poor boundaries, or chronic disorganization. And if you have an excess energy in your root, you can be overweight, overeating, obese, hoarding, material fixation, greed, sluggish, lazy, tired, fear of change, addiction to security, and rigid boundaries. So it's like this holding, right? This like excess of the energy there is holding is too much, and this just like gaining all of this and not allowing that energy to move, right?
Yes.
And then there's deficiency. So
if we don't ground, we're going to forcefully grip. That's the difference. If we aren't naturally flowing in groundedness, we're going to grip for dear life onto shit.
the breath, baby. You inhale, you take in, and then you let it go. Always.
Bullshit and sugar. Here we go. All over
Bullshit
again.
and sugar. Let it go, baby. It's going to feed. It's going to feed off you.
The last reproductive structure that we're going to discuss today is the physical genitalia of a man, and that is the penis. So the external genitalia here is, its biological function is bonding, connection, and also to be filled or engorged with blood to become erect in order to bond and connect to its counterpart, whether that is a woman, a man, or a transgender non-binary person. So when our external genitalia, it engorges both feminine and male. We didn't talk about the vulva necessarily today, but the penis has to be filled with the blood. So this is the direct channel of an external piece of the body that is filled with something in order to connect. So if we think about the emotional somatization that could occur here, if there is a blockage, rejection, betrayal, abandonment, fear of letting go, fear of surrendering to be filled, and also trust issues and hypervigilance.
Ooh.
So women most commonly are discussed with being inside of their head during sex and not really feeling into the moment in order to be filled with something. This can also happen with men too. This horrible concept of pornography, this like almost abusive culture of sex that is displayed at a very young age. It's like
distorted.
Who do you learn sex through as a woman? You learn sex through the little 14-year-old boy that you have sex with for the very first time. And what did he learn sex through?
Right.
Pornography of these like
Yikes.
big people fucking really aggressively. It's like there is no sacred bondage there. There is none.
It is
zero.
There's literally no energetic. There's no sacredness.
There's nothing
It's
sacred
just,
about that.
There's nothing.
It's animalistic, and it's honestly really derived around abuse and rape culture, which is really triggering. And it is instilled within very young minds at a very young age because it's available to anyone to watch. And when you understand and believe that sex is a performance and you should be matching the image of what you've seen on your phone when you were masturbating at 3 a.m. before everyone wakes up in the morning, you build this falsified idea of what sex is all the way through your adult years.
Oof. Yes. And these things, talking about the chakra systems and the energetic portals that the chakras are, right? It's the sacral is the element of water, which is moving and allowing.
That is your genitalia.
Their genitalia. The demon is guilt, having guilt around your sexuality or your emotions, your desire, your need, and your pleasure. And it says some deficiencies. If you have a deficiency in your sacral chakra, you could have rigidness in the body and attitudes, fear of sex, poor social skills, denial of pleasure, excessive boundaries, fear of change again, lack of desire, passion, excitement. So kind of like a dormant there. And if you have an excess of this energy in your sacral, you can be sexually acting out, sexual addiction, pleasure addiction, excessive strong emotions, kind of ruled by your emotions, bipolar mood swings, crisis junkies, kind of like that adrenaline rushing, oversensitive, poor boundaries, evasion of others. This is that rape culture, right? Seductive manipulation, emotional dependency, and obsessive attachment.
Yes, it's really, really true. And when we talk about the chakra centers and we understand that when I was learning Ayurveda, it is all about the flow of energy moving in a circular direction, right? So if it's moving too fast, excess. If it's moving too slow, not enough. And it also can change based on the direction that it is rotating in. These energy centers are rotating in a spiral, and that is the structure of nature itself, is a spiral.
Yes, the structure of nature, your DNA.
It is.
Oof.
Movement, Energetic movement through the body is all spiraling. It is not up and down, side to side. You know, in PT school,
this is why kids spin around a lot, guys. Like, do you remember?
Spinning is medicine.
I love spinning. The other day I was doing a somatic practice with my mentor and I just couldn't stop spinning around.
Yes.
It was like, this is the natural flow of when you are in an emotion. It's like, okay, how does that emotion feel in the body? How is it moving? Spirals.
Just do a windmill. Just do a cartwheel.
Yes.
Just like rock out real fast, because that in itself, that fast, abrupt movement, like, you ever like do something really hard and like you just shake your hands out?
Yes.
After you've been like using your hands really hard and you just shake your hands out.
It's so
because
natural.
That accumulation of whatever you were doing with your hands just allows it to move through the rest of your body.
I tell my clients that about with animals. If they see an animal, if they just went through trauma or they just had to run for their fucking lives, okay, they shake.
Yes.
Really, really, they shake, and they shake all that energy that they just accumulated in their adrenaline.
And the vibration allows it to move.
It
Does. Super cool. So if we're talking about, that was a railroad that we just went on all the way back to the penis now. We're talking about symptom presentation here. So there are 4 primary things that can happen. Starting with the most basic would just be pain and or hypersensitivity or hyposensitivity to the penile structure. So this can depend on if it's hypersensitive or you're losing sensation of the penis. But in general, this is going to be encompassing anger, guilt, shame, and trauma around your sexual genitalia. So when we think about pornography, young men see these gigantic structures online and then they look at their own genitalia and they have penis envy.
And same with women, right? I mean,
Body dysmorphia.
Body dysmorphia. That was something I struggled with huge when connecting with my own yoni, is doing mirror work with your yoni, right? It's like we've been given this like this picture perfect Barbie like image of what you're supposed to look like to be desirable coming from porn.
Absolutely. And so this is embedded in the subconsciousness. We don't have to even think about it. Nobody thinks about what their 13-year-old self was thinking about when they watched porn for the first time. However, it's ingrained. And it also comes from things that women may have said to you or men may have said to you. When men are changing in front of each other, they make fun of each other. They're really hard. You know,
my traumas with my own genitalia did not come from men. It came from friends, my women friends.
Which
my
is
girls.
so unfortunate.
So unfortunate.
And there's always a way to communicate things. And I think that putting others down based off of what their genitalia looks like is like just a corrupt evil that tries to make them feel better about their own insecurities. And there's nothing that you can do about that.
Yeah.
Except forgive.
Yeah.
And also
And
just instill a
just
deeper love for how your body looks.
Right. And it's normalizing the body structure, you know, and this is such a beautiful thing that I think this world has come to, is normalizing different bodies, and what we've been handed to as the most ideal body structure is, I think, you know, for the most part long gone, and we've all, you know, we've evolved past this. But with the genitalia, it is huge. It is such, I think still, that's such an unwinding of that you look different. It's like different compared to what? Everyone looks, they're different.
Absolutely.
Everyone looks different. It's like, it has nothing to do with, you know, the physical structure. But anyways, connecting deeply with your physical genitalia and of course your energetics.
Yes. And it really transmutes there. So if you don't believe that your structure is perfect in God's image, it's going to become a web for holding on to guilt, anger, shame, and trauma around that.
Totally.
Moving on from that would be low libido. So this doesn't just happen to women, it also happens to men. Libido being your desire to have sex and to sexually express yourself. To create sexual energy is one of the most beautiful practices that one can instill inside of a relationship, whether that is with self or with others. If you don't have a libido, you cannot create that sexual energy inside of your body, which is one of the most potent energetic medicines for healing your entire system. To feel sexy is to feel energized. To feel confident is to feel sexy. It is all in one.
All entwined.
Everything is a huge
sex.
Creative energy to be sexy. To
You
feel sexual is to create.
a cosmic orgasm.
You are.
The human being. You're an orgasm.
You are.
That is what you were created from. And energetically speaking, you know, there's just such beauty in understanding the nature of our bodies as that we are sexual beings, that all the shame and the guilt that is put on us by religion and the modern world and even ancient ways of trying to control and detach us from our truth, which is that we are powerful, the most powerful creators, that we're so much more powerful than we even can comprehend. Yeah. But it's coming to our own autonomy of our own divine inner union through the masculine and feminine energies to start to deeply understand all of this stuff. So
truly. So if one doesn't have a libido, a desire to sexually stimulate, you are going to be encompassing suppressed emotions of stress as the number one. That's primarily what everyone talks about. Oh, you have low libido? You're just stressed. You're just holding on to too much. You have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You know, this language that we use, it really transmutes down into sexual expression. And on top of stress, it's just a loss of passion, creativity, and sexually. Passion for life. Passion to wake up.
Passion to wake up, that you are not just meant to get up, go to work, come back home, be exhausted. You are an artist. Like we said in the beginning, you are literally co-creating with God. You are God. You are one with the creator element of sex.
You are.
And you can
everything can be sexual.
Whatever. Yeah.
And this is not to say that we should be hypersexualizing everything, because I feel like we always, as humans and as a society, try to take these newfound remembrances into extremes. We should not be hypersexualizing everything, because that is also not healthy. But to romanticize one's life, to dress yourself up, to really like feel the way that your hair feels when you're braiding it, to really like touch your mouth when you're putting on your lip gloss, and to really touch your body when you're applying lotion, is just to like stimulate.
Yes. And it's to be sensual, which again, sex, maybe people like the word sex is hijacked.
Is the action.
Through our own filters and the action of these things. But you are a sensual being. You have senses. You see, you taste, you hear, you feel your physical body. This is why body work is so important. If you have not been touched in a long time, whether you do your own self practices or go get a massage, fundamental for your brain.
Super. Nervous system,
everything. You are a sensual being. So we just can affirm that now. I am a sensual
motherfucker
being. Very sensual.
What's the last thing that you ate that really just like, you were like, oh, nut? Yeah, what's the last thing that you ate? You were like, oh, nut. That's
okay.
So good.
Pomegranate, dude. It was like splooging all over my chest. Dude, she was in that color. I remember pomegranate seed specifically is just like so sexual. Like she just was like, and I was like, you know, you've come to this beautiful union and finding God when eating a fruit, especially. Like fruits are so sexual.
They are.
You just open them, they look like the freaking vagina, right?
They absolutely are.
Eating them and letting their juice, it's just this is why we drool, baby.
This really is.
It's drool.
Your mouth is a perfect image of your vaginal cavity.
Ooh.
Because when you lubricate, when you salivate, they are one and the same. This is why the cervix and the throat are related.
Oh, I'm salivating right now thinking about it. So hot.
Moving on here. Premature ejaculation. So when we talk about the inability to hold until the right time, I believe is like an overactive. In my head, when I think about the function, it seems like an overactive sacral there. It's moving too fast. It's inability to hold.
Yeah,
it wants to transmute immediately, right? But emotionally, this is going to be correlated to anxiety, fear of losing control, which is ironic because you are losing control because you're having fear of losing control.
Interesting.
Ironic. And also the idea of unprocessed tension and unresolved trauma. Again, to reiterate that.
Wow. So interesting. So males or women, if you're listening to this and you can relate this to, if you have a partner that's a male, we hope that this information is enlightening. Because wow, yeah, the penis, the genitalia, the ability to penetrate. Because when you're penetrating, it is correlated with how you penetrate the world.
Yes,
right. With your creative
action.
You know, we're not just talking about sex, right? We're not just talking again about the action. We're talking about sex as in how you are literally showing up in this world, how you are providing your gifts and allowing everything that you were created to do and be able to flow, that you are understanding that you are both your masculine and your feminine, that you are penetrating the life of coming into your full masculinity, right? This penetration, this holding, this container. You are the sun, baby.
For real. And when you penetrate, you also have to surrender to whatever comes from it. You can't just pull in and pull out, pull in and pull out, pull in and pull out. You have to be in it. all the way. And when you're in it, you just have to accept whatever comes up. And this is the woman's role. This is the feminine's role. It's her ability to open up and surrender and allow herself to be filled. But it also requires action from her. It requires action to receive back and to also apply her own body movements and her own voice and her own action of that sexual expression in the way that she receives the world. When she receives the world, then what does she do with it? Does she just lay there limp with her eyes staring dead into space? Or does she engage with that action and play with it creatively?
Do you multiply, right? This is like from a primal aspect, are you multiplying through children? Are you multiplying through projects? Are you multiplying that energy that you are getting and receiving? And I mean, this is the whole dance of the masculine and feminine energies, right? Is that we empty to be penetrated, and the circular, like, it's like that is their role, that is their desire, is to penetrate, right? So women, whether you're looking for a divine partner, it's like opening your own field to be penetrated is key.
And if you don't
penetrating
believe it,
yourself first.
Yes. If you don't believe it will
penetrate
show.
Yourself first through practices, through self-care, through connecting with your womb, connecting with all the things that we're talking about today. The language of the genitals is honestly so foundational. And this is why we brought it up today. This is why it's first out the gate, like a running freaking bull, baby. We're entering spring. This is beautiful for,
reproducing.
Reproducing. This is when everyone's blooming, baby.
It really is.
Woo!
So let's talk about, as we close the topics today, we're going to talk about the actionable things that both female and male counterparts can do to reclaim, right? So since we're on male, we'll just start with male here as we end.
Okay.
And that's just going to be about reclaiming their creative power by engaging in those creative pursuits to restore flow and confidence in that area. I think that is number one for any type of disease, pain, inflammation that may be showing up in these reproductive organs. So start small. This is not saying quit your job and become a nomad on the bus with your dog and wife, unless that's what you want to do. But start small. Integrate things that really connect you to yourself when you didn't have this disease presentation. Maybe you integrated something growing up in your teenage years that you loved to do and you stopped doing it because you're too busy, you have kids, you have a wife, you have a job. We make excuses for our creative assets as we place them on the lowest part of our essential needs.
Hobbies and passions are like
essential.
So essential for every human being. Everyone should be engaging in their passion and their hobbies.
Agreed. And I think that in the bedroom, it keeps it interesting because you don't know something about your partner. It's so common now to just do everything together and not have individual hobbies and creative pursuits. It keeps you interesting.
Yes.
You have something to talk about, something to share, something that you yourself are proud of.
Yeah. Men, I mean, dancing. I know we say this with women and like coming into their sensuality, but partner dancing, in my experience, has been such, I've seen males get into it and just bloom and blossom, and it totally spills into their creative life with their profession and all of this. You start moving your body and dancing and holding that masculine lead
to the rhythm of nature,
and music and whatever you desire that you want to be, do it.
I love that. Healing the wounds. So this is going to be deepening ancestral communication, whether that is hiring someone on to help you kind of just dive into it, or even just getting an ancestral DNA test and learning more about where you came from, the regions of the world that you came from, exploring that, learning more and connecting, having more conversations with your grandparents and your parents, and just understanding and implementing forgiveness into the wounds with your mother wound, your father wound, and just integrating that into your everyday life. And that is such a multidisciplinary action there. It doesn't just happen by sitting down and thinking about all the shitty things that have happened to you in this world. It's really just integrating movement into that.
Yeah.
Crying, forgiveness, journaling, going into the metaphysical realms of connecting with your guides, deepening your understanding of dreams, whatever that looks like, whatever feels right to you.
Yeah.
You have to start integrating that in order to heal how those wounds are actually showing up in your reproductive organs.
Yeah. Taking interest in your ancestors' hobbies that may seem really boring and whatever
Cooking.
to you. Yeah,
Baking.
doing something. What were the men in your family doing back in the day? Like, what is something
Cutting
ancestral? Wood. Yeah, that you can start connecting back to. That's like, whoa, my grandfather's grandfather did this. Like, what a beautiful energy that I can now connect with and just connect with them through this beautiful action that somehow is potent for them and who they are. Right? And you are made of that. So it's a beautiful way to try to connect with deeper with yourself, is see what your ancestor, what your grandfather was doing, how he spent his time, and seeing why. Maybe if it doesn't interest you at all, maybe changing that perspective and relating to them deeper in what you can relate on, right? Sometimes we feel so disconnected from our family and we're like, no, I'm not like them. Or, you know, we feel like the oddballs and we feel like the black sheep, but really
that's the wound itself.
Oof, that's the wound itself. And I've struggled with this. It's like, oof, I have to relate back to I am them. Delicious.
Real. Balancing control and surrender. Letting go of the pressure to always perform, always be ahead, always be on time, always be perfect, always be strong, always be able to provide the answer to a problem, provide the solution to a problem, and just surrendering sometimes. Because as humans, it is very unnatural of us to be performing, solving, doing all the time. So integrating more time to just not know something.
Yeah.
Or to just allow space for nothing to happen. Allowing space for nothing to happen, to just sitting in nature. I really think that reconnecting to nature and being in the outside, having the sun, having the bare earth touching our skin, breathing natural air is really just all about connecting and balancing our hormones, because it allows us to feel safe and reconnect to that divine channel.
Beautiful.
Being inside and being stimulated by bright lights and phones and music and people,
no.
it's just so overwhelming, and we don't even realize how overwhelming it is because it is quote unquote normal. It's what you've always done. And but if you're listening, what you've always done is obviously leading to something to show up.
Right. And if you're, you know, a hippie dude that's like super integrated with the earth, right? Maybe you need to do that bridge of bringing all of that stuff into the 3D and like showing how beautifully connected you are to those earth elements, and bringing that into your relationships, and not being such a siloed kind of lone wolf that like, oh, no one gets me and I'm just so woke, connected and woke and in nature and like I'm connected. It's like we got to start bridging, guys. We got to start bridging the conscious quote unquote people with the people who
with the human experience.
With the human experience. It's all that we're here for.
Yes. And the last one would just be root and sacral activation. So this can be through breath work. This can be through somatic movement. This can be through emotional expression. This could be through yoni steaming, or cock worshiping with your partner, your partner worshiping you. Men, I mean, of course, semen retention, we didn't get deep into that, but, you know, both of our partners have studied and practiced this. If you haven't heard of this, is very ancient and sacred practice of understanding how to retain your semen and life force energy so that it gains momentum within your own body, and really is truly so felt in a woman. Same thing with edging with women. To edge yourself without orgasming, it just like I said, it builds the sexual energy inside of your body. That way it becomes medicinal. That way it stays internal and not just always focusing on outward explosions. It becomes an inward explosion. Yes, this I want to touch real quick on masturbation and stuff like this when it comes to why we use masturbation, right? Sometimes it's like, I can't go to sleep, so I just got to bust one out, right? Until I can feel tired. So that it's this like fast up and then crash, right? Instead of this utilizing this energy that you are building for creativity. If you don't feel, say you're a writer or you're creative and you have a block, you're like, I don't know what to do right now. I'm so blocked. Masturbate, bring yourself to that point of about to explode or about to orgasm, and edge. Use that energy and feel how good it feels to bring that energy up into the crown. And watch how creative you get. Ooh, immediately, dude. It's crazy. It is so crazy because, you know, I've heard of course, there's so many, you know, levels of consciousness and how you're relating to your body and masturbation and blah, blah, blah. Some people are getting over the shame of even masturbating to begin with. So there's so many steps, right? However, with masturbation, personally, I have come to the point where
if I come to the point of orgasm, I almost like what I call is imploding the orgasm. So I like if I'm releasing, I'll suck in and pull that energy up into, and I kind of visualize me bringing it up into my sacral, into my solar plexus, into my heart, throat, and just holding onto the energy. And it's a charging action, right? It's like an afternoon delight pick me up. I ain't reaching for the coffee. I'm gonna do a little quick pleasure practice. And this energy is so charged, right? It's not to deplete me and like, oh, I gotta get out of my head right now. I'm just gonna go bust one out with my vibrator.
Yep. It's true, which no shame if you do. Guilty. Definitely have been there, done that.
Yep. But there are beautiful evolution of self-pleasure that I'm sure we'll talk about more.
Absolutely.
On this podcast.
With masturbating for me and my self-practice, it's really, I have been blessed to not be in the porn world. I did not grow up with porn.
Either.
I did not watch it.
It's never drawn me.
And I don't feel drawn to it. But what I do is manifest and imagine. And it has strengthened my ability to imagine a new future for myself as I am orgasming. I'm thinking about projects and art and the life of me and my partner, just like being in Spain on the balcony with the sun and the breeze of the ocean. And I can literally feel it and smell it and be there. And with that orgasm, it becomes real life medicine. It's like there is no post-nut shame. It is post-nut clarity. Yes. It is clarity. It is creativity. It is confidence. It is belief, because I just envisioned a reality for myself, exploded to it, and now it is within my body.
And once you embody your reality, baby, that's when the 3D shows up. It all starts in the mind. It all starts in our imagination, right? That we try to cut ourselves off from. It. Like, that's for little kids. No. Connect back to your inner child, because they got literally the codes to who you are supposed to be in your adult life and to make your most delicious life possible.
It is the nation of the image. It is the world of the image that you create yourself. That is the imagination. The nation of the image.
Oh my God. So good. Yes. Once you start using your imagination again and just realizing how potent the universe is within your own body, and that you don't need the external world, that when you are creating the external world, if you're bored in this external world, if you're like, I don't have any good connections and I don't have any friends, it's because you have created this for yourself. Yes. So now you can create a different reality, starting within the mind, starting within the power of just imagining where you want to be, what you want to be feeling, how you want to
and feeling pleasure.
And feeling pleasure with that frequency match is going to embody into your cells. And then it is the law of the universe that it will show up for you in the 3D.
Resonance.
The person, the thing, the material, the job, everything's going to come, girl. All you got to do is think about it and ignite that in your body.
What a powerful freaking topic today. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for all of your information. Alyssa is such a powerhouse when it comes to womb, pelvic floor, integrating all of these beautiful understandings of anatomy and the body from an energetic and physical level. She is a powerhouse. So if you're looking for any, what do you offer when it comes to
guidance? Mm-hmm. So once I have obtained my license in massage therapy, I also will be going into the abdominal womb massage world. I also want to get certified in colonics, so helping to release from the gut and the intestinal system, because like we talked about today, all of that is so very important. Everything in our pelvic bowl really dictates who we are and how we show up in our life. So offering that service will be provided, as well as my dream interpretation services and my energetic washing and tarot readings. All of those can be found on my Instagram in my link tree. And what about you, my dear? What do you provide right now?
So on this topic of emotional somatization, within my body work practice at Zenith Massage, I love to get my clients as connected with their body as possible, of course, by first aiding to the nervous system and getting you nice and dropped into a beautiful safety within the body to receive touch, which again, like we mentioned, is fundamental for your brain and all the beautiful hormones that are needed to feel good. So I can be found as well on Instagram at Zenith Massage by Lindsay. I'm also opening up containers for one-on-one mentorship for women who are looking for deeper understanding of their feminine energy, their bodies, getting into somatic practices, whether local or afar.
Yes. Well, connect with us at your own leisure. Thank you so much for listening today, and we will see you next time.
We'll see you soon, Loomies.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.